it is. It is another Brother to Brother Wednesday on Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. And as usual, we got the crew here. We got Brother Ivra. We're going to go ahead and turn your mic on.
Hey,
then we got Brother Dorian. What's going on?
Hey, man, it's good to be here.
It's good to be here? You say it like that. It's good to be here. Okay.
I'm glad.
It's been a while since you've been here.
I know, man. It's been busy, man. A busy summer. I'm glad the kids are back in school.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Because when the kids are out of school, we have absolutely no freedom.
It's havoc.
Right.
It's havoc.
In a word, havoc.
In a word, havoc.
Right. No PTO for parenting.
No. we got no off day. Is that what you're saying?
No.
We got okay. What I do want to do is I want to tell you about my adventure a couple weeks ago. I don't know if I spoke to you about this, Dorian. So a couple weeks ago, Joy and I was sitting around the house. What you call her, Ivra? You call her?
Hey, Miss Joy that's my dog.
You call her Mama Joy.
Mama Joy.
So we were sitting around the house, right? And we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. So my in-law had decided to come get the kids, and it was like Friday. And so we was like, what are we gonna do? And I said, you know what? I spoke to Ivra about this. I only want to spend my money in black restaurants today. Or this weekend. So what I did was I did a search. I did a search for black-owned restaurants in Cleveland, and I came up with how many did I say?
65, 68, I think.
Something like that. It was like 60 plus,
enough.
right? It was enough. And so what we did was we had a whole weekend of black-owned money, right? So we went to Black Box Fix. Yep. You've had that?
Familiar with it.
You got it? Okay. Then we went to Lolu's down on the west side, right? So that was black and brown. That's Latin.
Okay.
Right. We just so happened, big shout out to the Gladdens. We had Marcus Gladden's wife with us, and she's from the Dominican Republic. Okay. And so allowed her to, speak, right? Yeah. She was speaking to the people, jonesing with the people, and it was beautiful. And so the next day, after church, we went to, I can't think of the name of the restaurant, but we tried to get into the Double Nickel. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
Double Nickel is also black owned. Yes. Tried to get into the Double Nickel. Mm-hmm. They was packed for brunch. And so we went to this spot across the street from the Metropolitan. And then from there, we drove to the west side to get some donuts at the vegan donut company.
It's black owned.
Right. So what's crazy is with intention, we can put our monies where we want it to be. And that was our intention.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and give a big shout out to all the black-owned businesses and black-owned organizations that are out there. Do you anyone else? And I'm gonna bring our guests on in a minute, because this brother to brother, we're gonna bring on a very electrifying brother into this conversation. But with that said,
I love Blasian. She's got a.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She's got a food truck.
Have you heard about that?
I haven't heard
Man,
of
it's that fusion of Korean with a little soul food. So you get the egg rolls.
Yeah.
But you get the Philly steak.
You get the egg rolls. So it's called Blasian. So come up to the mic.
It's
tell us what you're right.
It's like so it's a food truck.
Yeah,
so
I got that part.
She got the
she's mobile.
So she's mobile. So you have to find her on Facebook or some of the socials.
Okay.
But man,
why you sound our age? Some of the socials.
She's got it. Because there's a lot of them, man.
Yeah.
I think she's on Facebook. I'm sure she's on Facebook.
Everybody's on Facebook.
Yeah. But again, it's one of it's the Gen X.
Right, the Gen X. So you ate there. How'd you like the food?
It's good. I mean, it's good. I'm trying to eat fewer fried foods, but it's whatever.
Did you want to talk about that?
You know what? I need to get like you and become the pescatarian. My cousins...
go ahead
with the fish, man.
I'm gonna see where you're gonna go with this.
My cousin's husband, I just got to meet him over the summer, and during COVID, he became vegan.
Oh, okay.
And as I sat there and listened to the brother, I was like, I'm jealous because I became fat.
I'm dead.
Right. You became fat over that
lockdown. My brother was, there's a couple people.
Yeah.
Good friends of mine that took that time.
Yeah.
and improve themselves. I took that time to.
You
feel
did
sorry
improve
for
yourself.
myself and
You
got
did.
bigger.
You did.
So,
Dorian, what you got?
The Vegan Club in
What about
Shaker
it?
Square.
Have you
I
had
believe
it?
it's black owned. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
The Breakfast Club
good
also.
spot.
I've been to the Breakfast Club also.
Okay.
That's some good food.
Yeah.
So
Fresh Life 216 over in Maple Heights.
yeah, Fresh Life. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
216. Is that food?
Bruh, it's good.
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 I like
With
how you
the
said
DT.
that. So let's bring in another brother. So this is my first West Coast. My first West Coast collab. West Coast collab. I would like to bring in the one, the only Archie Green. What's into the conversation? He is. But wait, let me first say this. He is also a transplant because he's from Cleveland.
Okay.
And so he's on the West Coast now. What's going on, Archie? How you feel? You there, man?
What's happening? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Have you been a part? Have you listened to this whole conversation about this food?
Yeah, I was gonna chime in about the vegan donut company. My wife, we used to live in Lakewood before we moved to LA.
Yeah.
And she would go there, like, that was a treat. She would go there at least like once a month. And it was really dope because it's black owned.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the donuts were fire.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would like to bring you into this conversation for a couple different reasons. One, you are a black male. How you doing? And also, a lot of things that you do is for the community. I mean, at one point, you were doing big things with NAMI and mental health. You were doing big things with the Cleveland, museum, right? Art museum as well. And so you've done quite a bit of collaborations with individuals, not only around, the diaspora, but also around mental health. So because we got two resident counselors, so I'm a counselor, as you know, and then Dorian is also a counselor as well. And so we got two resident counselors. And anytime that we can get black men on the radio talking about, emotions, behavioralisms and whatnot is something that, that I'm always ready to have that conversation with. But before we jump off, let me know and let us know your story as it relates to how did you begin to realize, I mean, I know your story, but, the people that are listening may not know. How did you begin to realize that your mental health was something that you needed to just take hold of and give it the proper respect?
That's a great question. I think for me, I honestly got a lot of, I guess hints or feedback from the people around me, my family. They could tell I wasn't the same because, I'm just living my life, not really thinking about it. But I was spending more and more time in the bed all day or on the couch. And, I wasn't really calling nobody. I was kind of isolating myself, and it wasn't until I had people around me checking in on me and asking, are you okay? And even though they knew, they could tell that I wasn't.
Right.
And it was a frat brother, a Morehouse brother, and most importantly, another black male that was the first person to ask me, have you ever considered therapy?
Right.
To talk to somebody about what's going on. And I had thought about it, but because it wasn't at that time a normalized conversation in our community, especially among black men, I just was like, all right, well, that's something that white folks do. Like I'm not going to talk to nobody about my problems because nobody's going to want to hear it anyway.
Right.
And after that conversation with that brother, I, through my employer at the time, I found a therapist, a black male therapist. I thought that was important. I wanted someone who looked like me, who understood my worldview, and was a little bit more seasoned, a little bit older than me. And that's when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. So I kind of, I knew I was like down. I didn't know I was depressed.
Right.
But it really was the people around me that, at that time, that could tell something seriously was wrong. Because it wasn't just like a couple weeks. It was months where I was just like down in the dumps.
Straight languishing.
Yeah.
Just straight languishing. In working, so I know I primarily work with, males, definitely black males. And each one so I have a therapist. So I've written about my therapy. and how that therapist helped me actually, recenter myself to primarily focus on black males. Dorian, I'm not going to out anybody. If anybody want to talk about their therapy experience, go for it.
Man, I love I love our therapist.
Right, we share therapists.
No, but Dr.
She
Tiff,
know me.
man, man, she helps you to kind of understand where you are, and that there's no shame in being where you are.
Yeah.
And for me, I share a very similar experience to Archie in that recognizing the issue, but then what I'm experiencing, even still today, is coming out of the doldrums, and you can feel yourself. So you don't really feel yourself go there, but what you can feel is yourself coming back out.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where I am today, and I feel there's been a long time since I felt that level of hope.
Yeah.
And not from the DNC last night, just for my own personal life, for my own personal life, feeling hopeful about what things that are to come and being able to accomplish these tasks that I've got.
I think the scariest part about it is the isolation that black men go through, of not actually, realizing that other black men are going through this. Dorian, what you got some to add on that?
Yeah, no, I was going to add my own personal therapeutic experience. So I've had like 3 therapists over the years. One when I was actually in my master's counseling program, which was really helpful. He was a Caucasian man, but really helped me just kind of get the basics.
Yep.
And then after that, it was like, okay, I do want to find somebody who looks like me.
Right.
And that experience was good as well. I'm always a person who's like, let me find the person who fits my needs the best. And I've stopped working with that black male, not for any particular reason, but I just felt like he did the job. Whatever I need to work on at that time, we worked on it. But the therapist I see currently right now, and have been seeing the longest, is actually a therapist who specializes in MDR therapy and trauma, reprocessing traumatic experiences. And although she is a Caucasian woman, she services specifically first responders and helpers. Right?
Yeah.
So she works with therapists. Her whole entire caseload is therapist. But I found the experience has been really rewarding in that space that you can just be you.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about myself as far as a lot of the experiences that I've gone through, how they've changed the trajectory of my life.
Right.
And have given me a lens that sometimes just needs to be adjusted.
Let's be real.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of unlearning that goes on in therapy. Yeah. And so I know on the other side of our break, we're gonna delve more into, Archie's story about, what he does, and some of the people, going from Cleveland to the West Coast, let's be real. That has to be a culture shock. It has to be a culture shock. I'm just curious, when you decided to transition, how much was not only your mental health or you as the leader of your family's mental health taken into account, but also the other individuals that was connected with you in that transition to the West Coast?
That's a great question as well. Before I answer, I just want to acknowledge what Dorian was sharing about EMDR. I was with my first therapist in Cleveland for 7 years, 6 to 7 years. And then when I moved to LA, legally I couldn't see my therapist, black male therapist back in Cleveland. So I found black female therapists, and she helped me with EMDR. And man, it totally changed my life and my purview on just things that had happened to me in the past, within my family and with friends. And I can't champion that enough, especially for black men, because we have a lot of trauma that we just suppress and don't talk about, and or we look at it one way when it's like, when you reframe it, it changes everything. But in terms of, to answer your question, I was very depressed before I moved to LA. I think this is my first time sharing this publicly.
Okay.
I had gotten to a point, and people in Cleveland know me. I've done some groundbreaking work there. I continue to do groundbreaking work there through my nonprofit, and I still come back and forth. But I had performed at all the venues. I had been on all the news media outlets. I had worked with some of the greatest products of our city, whether it's Mayor Bibb or Kid Cudi or Bone Thugs and Harmony or whoever. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't really relate to anybody around me that was doing the type of work that I was doing. As a creative, as an entrepreneur, as a world thinker. And, a lot of times I would be dolo. Yeah. I'd be, going out by myself because, either my friends or the people that were around me didn't have the same interests or weren't into pursuing the same type of dreams or whatever. And I remember one day, I was on my way home. I was living in Lakewood at the time, and I pulled over at Edgewater Park looking at the lake, and I was sobbing because I was so depressed. I was like, man, and that's when I realized that it's not just, physical activity, what you eat, how you look at yourself. It's also your environment. That contributes to your mental health. And for me, I needed to change my environment. I needed to be in an environment where I felt like I wasn't on an island. I wasn't the only person that was doing the type of work that I was doing. I wasn't the only person who was, on performing at the level that I was performing at. And, funny enough, next month we'll be celebrating 5 years since my Violin Weighs a Ton, the first ever hip hop concert at Severance Hall, now Severance Music Center. And I remember a month before that happened, I met Rich Paul. I just happened to be, I was at the Apple store in Woodmere, and I seen this dude in line, and I was like, bro, that kind of looks like, he was short. Yeah. So at first I thought he was like a college kid or something like that. No shade.
No, right. No, I got you.
He's a legend. But when I looked closer, I realized it was him. And at the time, I don't know if he's still on the board, but at the time he was on the board for the orchestra. And so after, I basically waited outside after I was done in the Apple store to tell him about this event that I had, coming up, this historical event. And so I approached him. Hey, Mr. Paul, I'm a big fan of, all that you do. I know you sit on the board for Severance Hall. I'm doing this, this community event and this rap concert at Severance Hall, and he loved it. He was like, man, gushing over it. And he said, man, I'm going to be out of town, so I won't be able to catch it. The last thing he said to me was, do not stay here. Don't stay in Cleveland. And at the time I was like, what are you talking about? Because I was doing things culturally that no one in Cleveland was doing. Nobody. And so I was like, man, who's going to do the same type of things that I'm doing in this city if I'm not here? That's kind of what I felt at the time. And now here I am 5 years later, we live in the same city. And I realized the primary reason why he told me that is because the gifts that you have are global. They're bigger than just Cleveland. And you need to be in an area where you're with world changers, not just, and that's not to say that Cleveland doesn't have world changers, but just in terms of what I do, my expertise, I needed to be in an environment where, I wasn't an outlier. I wasn't like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys understand what I'm
saying. No, we got you. Yeah, the only person you can, I guess you can see all of us. They can't see you, but yeah. But no, it's a difficult, because I've heard that from other people. So I've had individuals that I've grown up with, that I've gone to college with, and they've all transitioned to different areas of the United States, and they've transitioned to those areas for many of different reasons. And so even, my wife, she grew up here, went to school in Tennessee, and she always thought she was going to go back. It just didn't work out, but we're always talking about going back somewhere to spread out. And I'm not sure how I feel about it overall, because it's, we already have that, that moniker of brain drain. We already have that issue of stagnation in Cleveland. So anytime that, I think about it, it causes a bit of, well, what are we going to do? Well, what about the people here? And what's oddly enough, we're slowly losing the people here anyway, or the anchors that keep you in place anyway. And so I know of me, for me, I'm of two minds about it. We got to jump out and take a quick break. So on the other side, I'm gonna get Ivra and Dorian. I want you to jump in on that because it's something that is scary. Mm-hmm. And in being scary, Archie, what I heard you say was you were already depressed and you were going through things. And so when you took that leap, it's one of those, well, I hate to say it, or mimic this, is what's the worst that can happen? I'm already here. And in some cases, there are people that are, I guess, doing quote unquote things in the city, and to leave that's really an ego pull. That's really what do you mean? I'm doing big things here. Mm-hmm. So let's take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're going to talk about it. This is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. We got the one, the only, Archie Green on the internet. Can we say it like that?
On the interwebs.
On the interwebs. And then we
World Wide Web.
World Wide Web. And then we got Brother Ivra. We got Brother Dorian. What you didn't hear on the other side, they was once again giving me trash because I'm moving the cameras around because I'm trying to make sure my people are right. The other thing is, let's talk about comfort, right? So, Brother Archie was talking about his desire and what led up to him leaving. You didn't mention your family, but we'll come back to that in a minute. You didn't mention how your family, took it and dealt with it, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But what I heard more than anything else, or prior to, and what we spoke about over, was this idea of comfort. When you come out of your comfort zone, isn't that when you're going to do your best work?
You're going to stretch.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay. Yeah. And so what I heard Rich Paul saying is get out of your comfort zone. Not necessarily. I mean, would he have said this? And if you were in LA and needed to go to Atlanta, I don't know. But a lot of times we get too comfortable and we think that the thing that we're doing in our comfort is the greatest thing that we can do. Because you went to Morehouse, right? So you came out of comfort. What high school did you graduate from?
Solon.
Oh, okay. So Solon. Use a Comet.
All
right.
That's my daughter.
Right. Your daughter there, my kid's there too. So you went from a predominantly white neighborhood or a white area to a straight black male area. What was that like for you when you went to Morehouse? Because my wife went to Fisk, and it's just so that you know, all of my kids are going to HBCU. She's an AKA.
We're gonna have to shout out Tuskegee while we at it.
Right. You can give all.
Love all HBCUs.
Right, it's one family. So what was that like going from there to Morehouse?
Well, I gotta back it up. Even before I got to Solon, I was at Chagrin Falls, but I was the only black. So I was like, it was very like when I got here. I know, right?
Wow.
I know, right?
Stark transition.
When I went there, like when I first got there, there was like a couple other black kids in my class. Some that would transfer in and then transfer right back out. But by the time I reached my freshman year, which is the last year I was at Chagrin, I literally was the only black person in the building. Janitor, black.
Yeah,
like,
I was about to say that. I was just about to say that.
I mean, you go to Solon.
So Solon was the first place where I had teachers that looked like me. Right. I had classmates that looked like me. Yeah. So I needed that experience. And then I started my undergrad at a small school near Columbus called Ohio Wesleyan in Delaware, Ohio. And I was experiencing some of the same type of prejudice, racism, all of that. And I was like, man, I need to go to HBC. And it's funny because my guidance counselor at the time, Mr. Washington, shout out to him wherever he is. Yeah. He used to always try and get me to go to a HBCU when I was at Solon. And I was like, I don't know. You know, it's an all-black school. That's not how the world really is. All this, which is like, yo. Right. Because he went to FAM. He went to FAMU. He was trying to get me to go to FAM.
He was a rattler.
And, he was a rattler.
He was a rattler. But I ended up, I was like, well, for me, from my experience, for what I needed, I was like, man, I need to go to what I felt at the time the best school for an African-American male.
Gotcha.
And for me, it was Morehouse. You know, I didn't apply to any other schools, went there for the tour, and I was sold like as soon as I, got there. And man, it was one of the greatest experiences that I ever had in my entire life, just in terms of, finally being around other brothers that were had the same type of intellect or same type of interest from all different walks. And then to be around brothers who came from affluent wealth.
Yeah.
Like, oh my.
And that's the kick in the head. That part is.
I had never seen that.
Yeah. So it was funny. Joy said the same thing. And not to interrupt, she said, when you look at Whitley, so if we go back to, our staple,
Different World.
We go to Different World.
Yeah.
Whitley was supposedly, in my area, was an anomaly. But in HBCU, she's not, right? Because you do see the people that go to the Hamptons. Shout out to my Hampton people that just got back, or people that went to the Martha's Vineyards this past weekend. Shout out to them that just got back too, to where they're literally looking at Black excellence, and it's like, oh, okay,
it's nothing new.
That you're supposed to succeed. Think about that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to succeed.
Yeah.
So keep going. So what I heard you say was you went from no seasoned chicken to lightly seasoned chicken to Lowry's.
I love the way you put that.
Texas people.
Yeah, I mean, y'all know it was hot sauce in the cafeteria. Every table in the cafeteria had hot sauce.
Really?
That just lets you know all you need to know right there.
Yeah.
It was
the
real stuff.
The other thing is like about HBCs that I'll say is you're not a number at an HBC. Like a good portion of your professors are also alumni.
Right.
Yeah.
So they walk the same halls.
Right.
They, went through the same experience. I remember I used to, I remember on one of my exams, I wrote a letter to my professor because I had tried my hardest, and I said to him, I was like, look, man, whatever I got to do to, if I got to put in some extra hours and office hours, whatever I had to do to pass this class, because I really felt like I hadn't really done that well or as well as I thought.
Correct.
And for him to, not only did I pass, but for him to acknowledge, and actually care, because again, he's a Morehouse man, so he knew, what it was, and then let's not even talk about I'm into clothes too and fashion and all that. Right. It was every day was a.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Every day was a fashion show.
You have to be right.
The one thing I will say, and I'm sure this is at most HBCUs, but at Morehouse it was different, man, to see a group of Black men all in suits. Every business major, they had to wear suits. It was a requirement. They had to wear a suit to class. And so I remember in some of my econ classes, we would go to different, we would stop by different Bank of America or Goldman Sachs or whatever. And it was expected that we wore suits. And I remember one time, I took a photo because it was maybe 20 or 30 of us, Black men in suits. I had never seen anything like that before. And what that did for my psyche, it just, it was beyond.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
I love that. I love that. Dorian, what you got? You look like you're pensive over there.
Yeah, no, this is,
because I raised a Black male, you raised a Black, right?
In my mind, I had already definitely going to HBCU.
Right.
If me and my wife was thinking about it, we're definitely on that, on that frame. But no, I think about honestly how enriching it is to be a Black man in that space with other Black men, right? I think even for me, the reason why I joined the fraternity that I joined was for that reason, to have that same that camaraderie that you just don't get in other places, man. But no, that is for sure really inspiring, and I can imagine it, for a Black man, it's probably a place where you feel really emotionally safe. Yeah. Right.
That part, that emotionally safe, that part.
Not to have the looking over your shoulder or the wonder or to be the one of the few. Yeah. Right. Or to be the only. Right. To
that
me,
one of the few,
important.
man, is oof.
It's a very tough dynamic to manage.
We was always, and it's funny that you mentioned that, Dorian, because whenever it was white folks on campus, everybody was like, who that? Is that the feds? Is that are they trying to almost is that the opposite of the spook? Out the door?
Okay,
our valedictorian,
the snow on the campus, not the spook at the door. The snow on the campus.
Our valedictorian was the first white valedictorian in Morehouse's history.
Wow.
Joshua
Gotcha.
Packwood. Like,
Wow.
good dude.
Yeah.
Grew up, I think, in Kansas City, was around black people his whole life. So,
Yeah.
like, we already, you know, we respected, you know, shout out to Josh. But if you were, like, visiting, if you were, you know what I'm saying, we didn't really know you. We was looking at you. You had to look over your shoulder.
You was on it, and what's crazy is that there's a lot more, you know, white individuals or non-black individuals at HBCUs now than they were before.
Right.
And it's that old adage of, okay, there were a group of individuals saying there's no more need, and a lot of them were black, there's no more need for HBCUs. But if you go to a HBCU campus and you see these white folks, are you going to ask them the same? Like, hey, did you not, you know, are you a legacy person? The same type of energy you may get at a Ivy League or upper league school. I'm not sure if that same, I guess, interrogation would happen. But you know for a fact, as a person or a minority at a high level school, you're going to have to deal with not only the rigors of being on campus, right? So we're talking about doing schoolwork, we're talking about doing your laundry, but also that psychological impact that comes with being one of the only. Now, in your program, so right now, so you're a rapper, right? Right, you do that. You're a nonprofit. You've been in New York, and your nonprofit is, are we saying Culture Junkie? But it's also one more. You also got one more. Is that correct?
So yeah, the nonprofit is Peel Dem Layers Back.
Yes, really it is. Okay, so talk a little bit about how Peel Dem Layers Back came to an existence based off of just your overall history.
Sure. So I shared earlier that, you know, I was depressed and was encouraged to seek out therapy. And I did, and it saved and changed my life. And I wanted to, you know, as any artist would, you know, pour my experience, my pain into my art. And I wrote a song about my experience called Layers. And the song ended up going viral. This was 2016. So this was at a time where Black men, especially in hip hop, weren't really talking about therapy.
Right.
And once I saw the response from the song, I was like, oh, like, you know, there needs to be more conversation in our community about mental health.
Right.
And, you know, I see the power of using hip hop to you know, to start or spark the conversation. And so that's how Peel Dem Layers Back was created. The name comes from the hook on the song. Right. And we started as grassroots. I was doing organizing panel discussions. Our first event ever was at the Warrensville Heights Public Library. Shout out to Ali. I'm not sure if he's still manager there, but he was super helpful in helping us put that together. And then eventually, during the pandemic, I made the decision for us to become a 501c3. We had fiscal sponsors up until that point. But I felt like, man, like this needs to be an official 501c3 for us to get funding opportunities and for it to be Black owned and operated outright. And so, Black ownership, man, that's super important. And so since then, we take a very innovative approach. Everything we do in terms of mental health, specifically for Black men and boys, is tied to hip hop culture. Gotcha. If mental health and hip hop aren't together, then it's not Peel Dem Layers Back. Okay. Like that's literally our mission. And so we do that with programs like My Violin Weighs a Ton, which was the concert that I spoke of earlier, where we blended hip hop and classical music and worked with the Lexington Bell Community Center and Huff and the Cleveland Orchestra to do this concert where the kids performed and I performed with an ensemble. Right. We have what's called the Cope Dealer program, which is obviously a play on words. That's our biggest program to date. This was birthed from an idea that I had when I was working on my last album, which came out in 2021, same title, Coke Dealer. Gotcha. And in the middle of working on it, it kind of hit me. I was like, man, you know, like Harvard has classes on Nas and Illmatic and, you know, and Ninth Wonder is a professor down in North Carolina. And it just kind of hit me like, man, this could be the foundation of a curriculum around teaching cognition, teaching coping skills for young Black men. Mm-hmm. And so I was intentional because the songs that I was writing all tied to what the different types of emotions that we as Black men face. Right. Depression, anxiety, grief, dealing with white supremacy, relationships, dealing with, sexual abuse and harassment within the Black family, like all of these different complex issues. And so I decided to build a comprehensive 10-session program that was tied to the album, where we would talk about, dissect the lyrics around these songs, and then give these young Black men the opportunity to take what they've learned as well as their lived experience and put it into something creative. And we did our first program. We finished our first program in 2021. A group of boys at Theodore Roosevelt High School in Kent, Ohio. And they ended up doing their own mixtape. They called themselves the Coke Kings. And they did 5. The Coke Kings. I really like that name. And they came up with 5 original records, 5 original songs about their mental health. And a year ago, this past month, we were featured on Good Morning America, just showcasing the work that we did with them, but more importantly, how these young men evolved. And so they became coke dealers. And, a coke dealer is someone who recognizes and understands their own mental well-being and knows how to cope with that. But also if they see a brother or sister or a friend or a stranger who's dealing with something, they can offer those coping mechanisms. So I'm literally dealing hope, you know?
I love
that's you got something.
No, I just love that I'd be like, Mom, I'm a coke dealer now. Have that conversation. But no, I love that because, and so like with having my daughter at Solon right now, as I'm sitting here listening to Archie, I'm just like, man, because my experience was, there's a lot that goes on in your mind when you remember to, what you dealt with at that age versus what she's got to deal with today, being a brown girl at Solon, big, strong. It's like there's so much there. So, man, he just took me to another realm.
The part, did you have something you want to add, Dorian?
No.
Dorian just be sitting here looking pensive.
He's taking it in.
I don't know if you I'm just
taking it in.
This is radio, brother. You got to be interactive.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But he drove up on his motorcycle. You thought he was going to be fired. But no, what I like about what you said is this idea of ownership, because I've encountered individuals that do not want to go through the process of ownership, but they want to own something. In other words, they have a good idea and they have things that they want to do, but they don't want to take the risk in going through the ownership of it. Right. When you were going through that process and identifying that it was paramount that you owned it or that you needed to go through that process of owning it, did you ever encounter people that just said, hey, why don't you partner with them, or why don't you just make this into a program and fold it up underneath the Cleveland Public Schools or the Canton Schools? Did you encounter anybody like that or individuals like that?
Honestly, in terms of me deciding for us to become a 501c3, it was a lot of internal dialogue. I just, I'd heard when I talked to folks, one good friend, big brother of mine, Daniel Gray Contar, I got a lot of advice from him. He was at the time was running a nonprofit called 12 Literary Arts. And I also, the idea, the spark for my organization came from a lecture I sat through where Arts Cleveland, or Assembly of the Arts, had hosted this the speaker from Oakland, this guy named Tomas Alvarez, and he ran a nonprofit called Beats, Rhymes, and Life. And he was a social worker that would incorporate freestyling into his sessions with his clients. And he was just talking about all the work he had been able to do and through the nonprofit. And so I first got the idea from him about, well, maybe I should turn what I'm doing into a nonprofit for funding opportunities. So it was in part that. And then the other part was, I remember this was now about 8 years ago. There was a small ensemble called Time Canvas that would put on these different house shows. They were like Baroque, like, very minimal, in the type of music stylings. And they reached out to me to do like a hip hop themed version of their concerts.
Okay.
And they were functioning as a nonprofit. And, to any of the rappers, artists, independent artists listening to this, like, it is like an overrated experience being a starving artist. Like,
you don't have to starve, bro.
You put these shows together. I'm not gonna call nobody out, but like, you get booked for a show, and then they expect you to sell all these tickets to make any money.
Call them out. Call them out.
Like,
no, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Don't call them out.
Let them know.
Like, and so like when I learned, like, like if we become a nonprofit, like, I can make real money just from my art. So it just, but I would say, like, I did a lot of my own research. I talked to certain folks, and I was like, the biggest thing that was kind of holding me up was like the process. I had heard like it might take like up to a year for me to get my 501. And in certain cases it does.
In certain cases.
But we had gotten a grant, and I found this, she calls herself the nonprofitista, Shalita O'Neill. She's based in the DMV, but she basically teaches nonprofits, Black and brown-led nonprofits, how to become a 501, how to, get your bylaws for your board, how to organize a board. So I basically hired her to train me on everything I needed in order to turn PDLB from a grassroots organization to a 501c3. And we were done. Like, I followed everything she instructed to a T. And I had gotten that certification within 4 months.
Nice.
Like less than half a year.
Nice.
I got everything. But it was because, like, I hired somebody who knew, what it was. Yeah. So to anybody that's listening that's thinking about whether or not they should do a nonprofit, I would say do your research. But as far as the process, don't think about the process. Because at the end of the day, man, like, had I not become a 501, I don't even know if I would have got the same opportunities that I've gotten.
Got you.
To this point.
Nice. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. You had
a question.
You finally got a question? No, I'm just kidding. We're going to get it on the other side. We're going to take a quick break. This is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. Unapologetic. We got Brother Archie on the phone, or on the intraweb, and then we got myself, Ivra, and Dorian. Dorian had a question, so I'm gonna go. I will yield the floor to my brother Dorian.
Yeah, Archie, man. So my question for you is, man, just seeing where you've built the organization and seeing the places you've gotten to, for sure, is inspiring. But my curiosity is kind of reaching at this question. What does the future entail for your organization? What does that look like?
Great question. I think right now, my main focus is building a solid financial foundation for us. Right now, we are a very tight team. As far as the full-time folks working, it's myself as CEO and my program director, Shelly Gates. She basically is boots on the ground. She's my right hand, like, pretty much. And she's been rocking with us for 3 years. And then we have a coke dealer facilitator named Jerome Cash, who does,
you know Jerome. You know Jerome.
Jerome Cash, he does a lot. I mean, he's amazing. He's just an amazing individual, selfless individual. But we need more help. Like, I need someone to help with our finances. I need someone to help with our marketing. I need someone to help coordinate our programs. Like, it is hard. It is very hard to run this organization. And like, I live across the country, so that makes it somewhat harder. Yeah. But I mean, we live in a remote working nation now. So that doesn't really, as long as you have bodies and there's a staff that needs to be where you need to be, you're fine there. But in terms of, like, right now, my main focus is growth. Right. And so that comes from pursuing grants. That comes from fundraising events, that comes from also offering products, revenue generating products. And so right now, my primary focus is, let's set a solid financial footing so we can actually stop having to chase grants like there's no tomorrow. And chase
because that's
money
what you do.
Like it's no tomorrow. I mean, and I mean, that's part of my job as CEO. And that's the other, like, I guess, caveat I would give to anyone who is looking to start a nonprofit. Yeah. You are always going to be asking for money.
That's right.
And there's an art to it. And if your heart ain't really in it, then this ain't for you. Like, for real. Yeah. Like, you just got to be selfless, shameless.
Do you use a grant writer? Or is that something you've considered?
Yeah. So I have, and I'm gonna give a shameless plug to Sade Hollins and Relevant Connections. I just contracted with her. I've known Sade for a number of years. Mm-hmm. And she started a grant writing agency, Relevant Connections. I highly recommend y'all, if you are looking for a grant writer or grant writing agency, look them up. But in the beginning, I had to write all my own grants. Yeah. So, and I'm gonna give y'all another nugget. ChatGPT is your friend.
Man, yes,
absolutely.
You got that.
ChatGPT
you preaching to the crowd.
Absolutely. You better learn how to use that.
Like, you are preaching to the choir, brother, on that one.
Listen, it shaves down the grant writing process from like weeks to days.
To days, yes. It was interesting. I periodically, Ivra noticed, I connect with other brothers, and oddly enough, a brother by the name of Austin Kirkland. He's the CEO of Millennium Pro, which is a advertising and a marketing advertising firm. So I can make an introduction if you like. But he and I were both talking about this concept of building and growing and looking for someone to do the operations. Because what I heard you say was, I'm the CEO, I need an operations person. And far too often, when we are creating organizations, we don't think about the individual who just simply wants to actually run the business. Not actually the person that has the ideas for the business, but to run the business. So when you're going through your process of mentoring, so you're looking at your mentoring process, can you tell us how you actually, help, another young brother or whomever you come in contact with build on the level that you're building?
Come on with some fire questions, man.
I should have sent them earlier. I'm sorry.
No, this is great. In terms of my process when I'm working with youth or when I'm mentoring someone, I try to lead by example, but I don't want to dictate too much.
Right.
I want to give them room to grow, room to figure things out. So I may give you certain hints, subtle hints, crumbs, breadcrumbs to let you know, hey, because honestly, the best analogy I can give for that is really just as an entrepreneur. I have other friends who are creatives, who are freelance, all of that. And I had a guy, a good friend of mine, who's also from Cleveland, Tino, lives out here, filmmaker. And he was on the fence about quitting his job.
Right.
He had been working at this dead end job for as long as I knew him, as long as he moved out to LA. And I'm like, bro, you didn't come out here to work this dead end job. You came out here to make movies and to get into the movie business. And so the day he decided, he was on the fence. He's like, look, man, I think I'm going to actually do it. He called me and he was kind of going through everything, his mindset, everything that. And at that point, when he asked me for advice, I was like, bro, you know what you need to do.
Yeah.
You already know. You've had this conversation. You've got the support from your girl, which is similar in my situation. Right. My then girlfriend, now wife, she told me to quit my job. She's like, I'll help pay the bills, I'll rent, everything. And I can't underscore that enough too. As an entrepreneur, as an artist, as someone independent, you need that financial support.
Exactly.
But I try to, when I work with youth, I try to level with them, especially when you're working with I'm a millennial, so dealing with Gen Z, Gen Alpha, it's what is a hawk to a girl? What is what is demure? What is mindful? I don't get all that. You know what I mean? So I try to level with them. You know what I mean? And what I don't know, I don't know.
Right.
But I try to relate. And that to me, that's the main reason why hip hop is the main tool, because hip hop is universal. You know, as far as age, as far as race, as far as educational background, all that. Like anybody can relate to that. Like it doesn't matter what age you are.
Right.
And so a lot of times, like, you know, I relate some of the stuff that they're going through with, like, well, what do you listen to when you're going through that? Or like, I know for me, I listen to Hove when I'm going through certain scenarios, or I listen to the old Kanye.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or
the old Kanye.
The old Kanye, though.
Right. Okay.
You know, so like, does that answer your question?
No, it does. It does, because this part, you know, I do this for fun. This is my therapy. And, you know, whenever I get a chance to get someone on who has some experience, who knows about life, if one person is listening can grow from that, that's, you know, then I've spent my hour well. Yes. So anytime that we're, you know, especially during this segment, you know, as we close up, we want to get them nuggets. We want to ensure that anyone that's listening have a dream, have something that they need to do, want to do. They, you know, the person that, you know, that has provided their time with me, you know, they get that from them. So you're doing exactly what I asked you to do. So you all good, bro. Yeah. You all good. What I do want to go back to is the family. So everybody in here are families, you know, have families. So I got 3 kids. You got 3. Yep. Ivra, how many you got?
I got 3.
So we got 9. How many are you got? 2?
No kids yet.
No kids yet. Okay. No kids yet. So
take your time.
Right. Take your time.
He's into that one.
I got a 2-week old.
Yeah. Look. Off the air, we can talk about how to ease into having babies and like what that means for like growth, but we're not going to do it on the air. But my question is, this concept. If anyone is listening and they are attempting to go at this thing, whether it's artistry, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's making an impact, what is it that you want to pass along to them about the value of the person they are connected with? In other words, their family and maybe their offspring, I should say, but not offspring, but definitely their significant other. You choose a significant other that does blank. What is that blank for them?
Man. Like, and I'm glad you asked this, because Sunday will be 6 years that I've been married to my wife.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She, you know, Nikkei saved my life, man. Like, I say that all the time, because she was the first person to not only tell me that you're a star, but to put some action behind it and rolling the dice, you know, to see, you know, hey, I believe in this person so much. I love them so much that I'm willing to sacrifice for them. Right. And we're still reaping the benefits off of that today. So, you know, I think the first thing that you need in that person is you need someone who truly believes in you and is not afraid to stand in your shadow, or in a different way of saying, that won't be blinded by your light shining brightly. Yeah. Like that is something like, you know, when we used to do stuff, a couple events where we would talk to couples about our marriage and what works for us. And the big thing for us is we do our best not to let the accolades, you know, all the different things that I'm doing versus all the different things she's doing. We don't try to outshine each other. We don't get jealous of, you know, what the other person is doing. So that's number one. You know, and then number 2, you have to be aligned on the vision for your life. Like, you got to have the same overall goals, the same lifestyle that you want to live. If you want more out of life, like we both wanted more out of life. You know, it was a family decision for us to move to LA. That was, you know, we had danced around the conversation for years. We felt like it wasn't the right time because we still had more to do in Cleveland. And then we finally got to a point where it's like, okay, now is the time. And we were like, once we made that decision, and we made that decision 4 months before we moved here, didn't know how we were going to make it, didn't know where the money was going to come from or anything. But once we decided to do that, we kept that, you know, we kept that close. We didn't tell our parents till a month before. Right. Wow. And we believed in each other that much that everything would work out. And it did. It was a lot of bumps.
Yeah.
A lot of hurdles that we had to go through, and we continue to go through today. But at the same time, that trust that we have that's built on alignment and all those things. The other thing with Nikkei, like, she was fine in her friend circle in Cleveland, you know, and she didn't know anybody out here. I knew some people. I had fraternity brothers. I had Morehouse brothers. I had, you know, and I had this job at the time when I moved out here. But she's still recreating a network. Right. And so for her, again, that mindset of, you know, I'm willing to do this for our family.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times in family, you just can't think of yourself. And I look forward to the day where I can pour that into my child, and, you know, to share a bit of vulnerability. You know, we experienced child loss earlier this year. It was like we had been trying for such a long time. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to eventually share that with my offspring as well. Good the importance of following your dreams. And I know it's coming.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, just ease into it. So we got to close out. This is one of them, you know, I mean, that hour goes real quick, man. Fast. That hour goes quick.
This has been great, man. This has been therapeutic for me, too.
Well, I appreciate it. So quickly, we got about 10 seconds. Go ahead and get some socials out. Go ahead. You got any socials?
That's at Peel Dem Layers Back on all the socials, and then at _Cope, COPE_dealer. And you can find out about the work that we do at www.pdlb.org.
All right, we got to roll out. We're already over. Peace, and I'll catch you on the other side.
Peace.